In 1967, Anton LaVey documented his 11 Satanic Rules of the Earth, which became part of his earliest writings. The 11 Satanic Rules was part of a monograph distributed from 1968 through 1969 by the Church of Satan in its earliest years. In 1987, LaVey penned the Nine Satanic Sins. The 11 Satanic Rules of the Earth, the Nine Satanic Sins, and the Nine Satanic Statements are often referred to and considered to be the original vision and satanic manifesto of the Church of Satan. No set of rules or requirements fit prima facie case en point for all situations. However, I will explain why LaVey's rules, sins, and statements are solid, fundamental concepts for any Satanist to consider. The main point of Satanism is that we do what is best for ourselves. Any rules are secondary to that objective. If a Satanist breaks any of these rules of Satanism, he or she has a good reason. The rules are also for the protection of Satanism, so that outsiders who easily pick up the tenets of our belief can quickly get an overview of the general philosophy. It is simply a framework within our path and satanic journey. Any person full of ego who stands up among Satanists and starts spouting commands will soon find their lives to be a hailstorm of turmoil. In 2012, I wrote a book called The Art of Cognitive Warfare, which described my approach to conflicts in life, whether passive-aggressive or outright personal attacks. This short book has helped many reclaim their voice and dignity without fear of retaliation from jealous and hateful degenerates who literally steal, kill, and destroy at will. During this episode, I will provide some tough love and unflinching truth from my perspective. I will also share applicable messages from the art of cognitive warfare, and I will begin with words from the foreword of this book. I am a warrior. I am a devil. I am death, and I am a magus. I am powerful, and yet I am but a madman. I have limitless limitations, and I am as the living dead. I am despised by the multitudes and sought after by the growing populace of those seeking truth. A word without a meaning and an interpretation without reason. I sharpen my intellect and polish the armor of my knowledge. I will not be defeated, and I will never succumb to death at their hands. I will curse them, and I will skillfully remove their voice with a powerful blow. My armor is my mind, and my sword is my tongue. They will be crushed beneath my feet, beneath my truth. Warriors are flesh and blood. We live and are ultimately trying to survive, and in order to do that, we must have the tools to do so. Since the beginning of time, humans have fought with one another in the quest to endure and emerge victorious. Whether with sword, mace, staff, knife, or gun, the human has tried to annihilate their own species in order to claim the spoils. Therefore, for us to be able to withstand an attack from the enemy, we must examine, contemplate, and expect the attack to occur and be neither surprised nor shocked when it finally does. We must know the battlefield, enemy, weapons, and tactics employed by those wishing to do us harm. It will happen. Do not be fooled or complacent. However, defense, an invaluable tool, is only half of the strategy we must apply. The only weapon humans truly possess is the mind. All other weapons and armor can be stripped from us, but our cognitive abilities are with us until dementia or death. It is for this reason we must sharpen our mental abilities just as we would sharpen a blade. We must use our cognition, and we must use it often. A sharpshooter will lose his or her skill with disuse. The mind is no different. It must be used. I have spoken a great deal about enemies, but let me be perfectly clear. Friends and family members are potential enemies as well. Do not let your guard down. They will hurt you, given the right circumstances and opportunity. Let's begin with an overview of the Satanic Rules, Sins, and Statements before we delve deeper into the correlation of each. And remember, not everything appears as it is. So mote it be. The 11 Satanic Rules of the Earth. Number 1. Do not give opinions or advice unless you are asked. Number 2. Do not tell your troubles to others unless you are sure they want to hear them. Number 3. When in another's lair, show him respect, or else do not go there. Number 4. If a guest in your lair annoys you, treat him cruelly and without mercy. Number 5. Do not make sexual advances unless you are given the mating signal. Number 6. Do not take that which does not belong to you unless it is a burden to the other person and he cries out to be relieved. Number 7. Acknowledge the power of magic if you have employed it successfully to obtain your desires. If you deny the power of magic after having called upon it with success, you will lose all you have obtained. Number 8. Do not complain about anything to which you need not subject yourself. Number 9. Do not harm little children. Number 10. Do not kill non-human animals unless you are attacked or for your food. And number 11, when walking in open territory, bother no one. If someone bothers you, ask him to stop. If he does not stop, destroy him. The Nine Satanic Sins. Number 1, stupidity. Number 2, pretentiousness. Number 3, solipsism. Number 4, self-deceit. Number 5, herd conformity. Number 6, lack of perspective. Number 7, forgetfulness of past orthodoxies. Number 8, counterproductive pride. And number 9, lack of aesthetics. The Nine Satanic Statements. Number 1, Satan represents indulgence instead of abstinence. Number 2, Satan represents vital existence instead of spiritual pipe dreams. Number 3, Satan represents undefiled wisdom instead of hypocritical self-deceit. Number 4, Satan represents kindness to those who deserve it instead of love wasted on ingrates. Number 5, Satan represents vengeance instead of turning the other cheek. Number 6, Satan represents responsibility to the responsible instead of concern for psychic vampires. Number 7, Satan represents man as just another animal, sometimes better, more often worse than those that walk on all fours, who, because of his divine spiritual and intellectual development, has become the most vicious animal of all. Number 8, Satan represents all of the so-called sins, as they all lead to physical, mental, or emotional gratification. And number 9, Satan has been the best friend the church has ever had, as he has kept it in business all these years. In this episode, I will provide our correlations of the 11 Satanic Rules of the Earth, 9 Satanic Sins, and 9 Satanic Statements, as interpreted by Magnum Opus Satanic Coven and yours truly. Let's begin. The 11 Satanic Rules of the Earth. Rule number 1. Do not give opinions or advice unless you are asked. This first rule is also known as the Neophyte Rule. This rule deals with the intrusion into matters that are not of your concern. There are so many people spouting noise and pointless banter today, both in physical and in social spaces. This type of person is often pretentious, self-important, naive, and immature. You could sum this rule up as mind your own business. The social media space has created a medium where everyone feels their opinion is needed and desired. It is neither. Right now, as you watch this video, you may say, Aleister, you're guilty of this sin right now. It is implicit that you are watching this video because you want to know. So mote it be. The first rule also corresponds to the Nine Satanic Sins. Sin number 3, solipsism, simply self-centered or selfish. This can be very dangerous for Satanists. Projecting your reactions, responses, and sensibilities onto someone who is probably less attuned than you are. It is a mistake of expecting people to give you the same consideration, courtesy, and respect that you naturally give them. Some people think they can be invited to participate with you in an endeavor and then metaphorically try to run the show. These are dictators, prima donnas. They begin setting their rules for everything up front. Satanists strive to apply the dictum of do unto others as they do unto you. It's the golden rule. It requires attention, vigilance, and it can be difficult to treat some people with those attributes. The person's ego and vanity can be used as flaws in the personal psyche. With a few flatteries, a person can be convinced to do almost anything, which is communicated covertly or subliminally. The drawback is some people having a large inflated ego also have a high awareness and ability to filter your wants from their wants and act accordingly. Use caution. The egotist can quickly turn on you and attack. In addition, appeals to the ego too often simply label you as a suck-up or an ass-kisser, not flattering labels at all. The art of cognitive warfare. This first rule also corresponds to the Nine Satanic Statements. Statement number 6. Satan represents responsibility to the responsible instead of concern for psychic vampires. Psychic vampires are very, very real. They are manipulators, authoritarians, passive-aggressive, and those who drain your very life with their endless requests for favors, sympathy, and respect while sabotaging every opportunity you present them. They destroy what has been built while they play the victim. Teach them a lesson they need to learn. Shut them out of your life. So mote it be. The 11 Satanic Rules of the Earth. Rule number 2. Do not tell your troubles to others unless you are sure they want to hear them. No one is interested in the troubles of others. We all have troubles of our own. This is in stark contrast from being a friend, although these individuals use the word friend when it furthers her or his agenda. These individuals complain about everything, soliciting sympathy, empathy, or other energy-zapping emotions. Often, these troubles are self-created by the individual themselves, going from situation to situation and leaving a path of anarchy and destruction at every turn. He or she wants to offload their self-created problems and have you solve them. Some people's daily lives are so pedestrian, they are simply looking, no, desperately searching for someone that will listen to their endless banter and seem to be enamored and impressed with what they say. These desperate fools often are not trusted with real information, but some of the information can be useful. The art of cognitive warfare. The second satanic rule also corresponds to the Nine Satanic Sins. Sin number 2, pretentiousness. Pretentiousness is empty posturing, and this can be very irritating, and it is on equal footing with stupidity. Everyone is made to feel like a big shot in our world, whether they can truly deliver the goods or not. These individuals come with a resume full of qualifications that mean absolutely nothing. They also make grandiose claims of achievement on the left-hand path. Be careful, take heed, be warned. The second satanic rule also corresponds to the Nine Satanic Statements. Statement number 3. Satan represents undefiled wisdom instead of hypocritical self-deceit. Many people in our world are living in denial on a daily basis, and they are only fooling themselves. Do not live in an idealistic false reality and let the world pass you by. Seek knowledge and wisdom and apply knowledge and wisdom. So mote it be. The 11 Satanic Rules of the Earth. Rule number 3. When in another's lair, show him respect, or else do not go there. This rule does not just apply to physical space, like your home, but it also applies to social media. However, do not go looking for a fight and be surprised if you are attacked anywhere. If you cause trouble, trouble will come and visit you, no matter what setting. People want to feel safe and secure in their own environment. This rule is closely related to the Golden Rule, which simply means treat people with respect until they prove themselves unworthy. Do not assume a friend has your best interests at heart, for the friend will have an agenda of their own. You must keep your eyes open to the very real possibility that the friend's agenda includes a proverbial knife in your back. If you choose to ignore this basic fact, you may be snuffed out with very little struggle or resistance. Be careful. The art of cognitive warfare. The 11 Satanic Rules of the Earth. Rule number 4. If a guest in your lair annoys you, treat him or her cruelly and without mercy. You have the right to treat people the way that you want to treat them in your home. This also extends to the social sphere. However, this is not a license to be a bitch or a prick. The golden rule applies in this situation. Treat people with respect until they reveal that they are not worthy of such respect. For your information, ritual is not the only place that practice makes perfect. The 11 Satanic Rules of the Earth. Rule number 5. Do not make sexual advances unless you are given the mating signal. This rule can be embarrassing and painful as a result. Do not send unsolicited pictures of your body parts. Do not come on to someone if they are clearly not interested. Do not read too much into a person's politeness or cordiality. Do not act upon assumptions. A good rule of thumb to apply for assumptions is to assume makes an ass of you and me. Rule number 5 corresponds to the 9 Satanic Sins. Sin number 1, stupidity. Stupidity is really at the top of the list for satanic sins, and it is a cardinal sin of Satanism. As many have said, it's too bad that stupidity isn't painful. Ignorance is one thing, but our society strives increasingly on stupidity. We see it in reality television. We see it in the news. It depends on people going along with whatever they are told. The media promotes this stupidity as a posture. Satanists must learn to see through the tricks. They cannot afford to be stupid. The failure of the individual to see the consequences of his or her own actions is stupidity itself. The result of stupidity is self-harm. Repentance, literally meaning changing your mind, is sought only from the self in the form of learning from your mistakes. The problem is, stupidity is the cause of many mistakes, and this includes failing to learn from your mistakes. Rule number 5 also corresponds to the 9 Satanic Statements. Statement number 4. Satan represents kindness to those who deserve it, instead of love wasted on ingrates. Do not let anyone treat you like a fool and waste your time while placing their needs or desires above yours. Sever that connection and stop wasting your time. Do not be a victim of death by 1,000 paper cuts. The 11 Satanic Rules of the Earth. Rule number 6. Do not take that which does not belong to you unless it is a burden to the other person and he cries out to be delivered. No one likes a thief. Do not steal unless you want something stolen from you. You cannot take from a Satanist with impunity. Reciprocity is not only for acts of kindness. You will lose something of greater value if you ignore this simple rule. Again, the golden rule: treat them as you would like to be treated until they are found unworthy. Some people are simply not worthy of your kindness. Period. Thieves are among those. Rule number 6 corresponds with the 9 Satanic Sins. Sin number 1, stupidity. Battles are only over when the enemy cannot mount another attack, nor do any more damage to the other's forces. Throughout history, battlefields were turned crimson with the blood of those wounded and dying soldiers that appeared to be unable to attack. The conquering army would send a special group of soldiers to kill each wounded survivor of the enemy due to the fear of future retaliation. The art of cognitive warfare. Rule number 6 also corresponds with sin number 3. Again, this is self-centered and selfish. The motives of a person or group are often hidden beneath the shroud of kindness and goodness. The covert nature of intentions are covered with the veneer of compassion or charity, simply feeling compassion for those less fortunate. That is very seldom the motivation for the kind and generous act. When you give to these huge corporate religious conglomerates, in my opinion, you have wasted money that could have potentially helped someone in your local neighborhood, town, city, or state. Think about the countless homeless and hungry that need help. They could use your help. Yes, warriors do have hearts and compassion for those who are victims of circumstances. The art of cognitive warfare. Rule number 6 also corresponds with the Nine Satanic Statements. Statement number 4. Satan represents kindness to those who deserve it, instead of love wasted on ingrates. Relationships should always be quid pro quo, something for something. Only a fool expects something for nothing. Satanists do not sow a field so that others can benefit. Take responsibility for your development and reap the field you have sown and grab your rewards. Nothing is free in this life. Stop expecting something for nothing. The 11 Satanic Rules of the Earth. Rule number 7. Acknowledge the power of magic if you have employed it successfully to obtain your desires. If you deny the power of magic after having called upon it with success, you will lose all you have obtained. Anton LaVey believed in magic in the literal sense. However, he also believed in human nature, hypocrisy, and ego, which often clouds the sphere of magic. One of the top root causes when a person cannot be effective with the higher satanic processes is the denial of magic in itself. An old adage, if you don't believe it, then I cannot help you. My belief cannot substitute for your belief. Do not use magic and then deny its very existence. This is applicable to theistic as well as atheistic Satanists. If it works for you, then use it. However, do not speak from a position of authority if you have not experienced true magic. Affirmation and denial are equally abused by those who are more opinionated than informed. Rule number 7 corresponds to the Nine Satanic Sins, number 4, 8, and 9. Sin number 4, self-deceit. It's in the Nine Satanic Statements, but it deserves to be said here again. We must not pay homage to any of the so-called sacred cows presented to us. The only time self-deceit should be used is when it's fun, and then it's not really self-deceit. Number 8, counterproductive pride. Pride for Satanists is valuable. However, do not fool yourself. Pride often does come before a person's failure. Evaluate your position and admit when you've made a mistake. So the saying, "Do what I say, not as I do," almost resonates throughout history. It is the true Homo sapiens' nature and pathology. Pride and vanity are the cornerstones of our society today. Advertising agencies devise media campaigns for their clients using these powerful motivations. How can you possibly resist the overwhelming desire to look a certain way or be perceived as superior in some way to the others around you? Believe it, advertising works. The art of cognitive warfare. Rule number 7 also corresponds to sin number 9, lack of aesthetics. Aesthetics are important in magic, and it should be cultivated. People look to those things that they find beautiful. The Satanist should know when to apply this concept. It's not what is supposed to be pleasing, it is what is pleasing to the individual. What you are watching right now is my projection of aesthetics. I wanted this series to be engaging, value-added, and entertaining. I certainly hope you find it so. Rule number 7 also corresponds to the Nine Satanic Statements, statement number 1 and 2. Statement 1. Satan represents indulgence instead of abstinence. It's true. Satanists love to indulge in all things that they find to be good. However, be aware that if left unchecked, indulgence can lead to your demise. Again, responsibility must be exercised. Too many drugs, too much alcohol, too much of anything, even too much time in the sun can ultimately be deadly to you. Take heed. Statement number 2. Satan represents vital existence instead of spiritual pipe dreams. Satanists live for today. We live in the moment. This does not mean that we do not plan for the future, because we do. However, we just do not expect future rewards or punishments, nor do we allow these concepts to cloud our better judgment in the present. The 11 Satanic Rules of the Earth. Rule number 8. Do not complain about anything to which you need not subject yourself. This is wonderful advice for anyone. Satanists take their lives into their own hands and mold what their life looks like. Humans often create their own metaphorical messes, and then they blame someone else. If you can't look after yourself, no one else will. Stop complaining and start doing, and do it now. In your daily dealings with all people, you should constantly be listening and watching for the subtle clues and drops of condensed information that you could take advantage of during the coming battles. People are usually oblivious to the fact that they are giving away important information during interminable and plebeian chats. The art of cognitive warfare. Rule number 8 corresponds to the 9 Satanic Sins. Sin number 5, herd conformity. We are nothing more than animals. That's obvious. It's all right to conform to a person's thoughts or wishes if it benefits you, but only fools follow the herd, letting an impersonal entity dictate to you. The key is to choose your metaphorical master wisely instead of being enslaved. Yes, we all have one or more masters. This may or may not be in the metaphysical. Your master may be money. It may be sex. It may be drugs and alcohol. Everyone has a master. Who or what is your master? Humans are communal animals, and as such, seek to belong to a group. This primal urge is so great at times, it clouds the judgment of an otherwise intelligent person. How many times have you heard statements such as, "It did not feel right," or "There was something not right about that person"? With this primitive need to belong, we also have intellect and what some people call a gut feeling. This is defined as the ability to discern between spirits or identify the good from the bad. The art of cognitive warfare. This rule also corresponds to the 9 Satanic Statements. Statement number 3. Satan represents undefiled wisdom instead of hypocritical self-deceit. The 11 Satanic Rules of the Earth. Rule number 9. Do not harm little children. It is such a shame that this has to even be said. However, Satanism does attract mentally ill and individuals who prefer maladaptive behavior. Children represent the future. Satanas recognizes those who are the youth hold the future. Children are not to be harmed along the path of Satanism. The 11 Satanic Rules of the Earth. Rule number 10. Do not kill non-human animals unless you are attacked or for your food. Again, it's a shame that this has to be said. Satan does not want or expect animal sacrifice in any manner. That is a concept of established religions. I have made several videos and have written about the subject of sacrifice in my books. Sacrifice is only effective when it is something of yours that affects you and you only. This is why This rule corresponds to the Nine Satanic Sins, sin number 1, stupidity. This rule also corresponds to sin number 4, self-deceit, and sin number 7, forgetfulness of past orthodoxies. Concepts of animal sacrifice belong to that of established religions. Look at what Christianity holds most important as a sacrifice, and that is the sacrificial lamb of the Christ. Animal sacrifice is not of Satanism, period. This rule corresponds to the Nine Satanic Statements, statement number 7. Satan represents man as just another animal, sometimes better, more often worse, than those that walk on all fours, who, because of his divine spiritual and intellectual development, has become the most vicious animal of all. So mote it be. The 11 Satanic Rules of the Earth. Rule number 11. When walking in open territory, bother no one. If someone bothers you, ask him to stop. If he does not stop, destroy him. This rule again exemplifies the golden rule applicable in this case. Machiavelli wrote, "Anyone who abandons what is for what should be pursues his downfall rather than his preservation. For a man who strives after goodness in all his acts is sure to come to ruin, since there are so many men who are not good." You should also be aware of the passive-aggressive antagonists who come as a friend while metaphorically sharpening his or her knives. These individuals sow the seeds of discourse and destroy peace at every opportunity. They pick a fight and then claim to be the victim. There are some who wish to steal and destroy what Satanas has provided for you. Defend that which belongs to you with malice and ensure the matter is settled to your satisfaction. Once war is declared, victory is your only option. What you must not do is give up and run away from the problem. Use the situation as an opportunity to learn something about your enemy and yourself. Adjust your battle plan and counter-attack. Do not be defeated. If you run, you will surely get a sword stuck into your back. The art of cognitive warfare. Rule 11 corresponds to the Nine Satanic Sins, sin number 6, lack of perspective. You should not be swayed by any herd-type constraints or any self-professed gurus. There are those who have more knowledge and experience and have been on the left-hand path longer than you. However, know that you are working on another level entirely from the rest of the world. Treat your path accordingly. By striking the leader and disabling his or her ability to lead, leaves the group in confusion and chaos, of which you will benefit greatly. While the group hastily attempts to replace the leader The battle continues, and you should take advantage of this time of uncertainty on their part. Invade their camp and go on the offensive to create even more confusion. The art of cognitive warfare. Rule 11 also corresponds to the Nine Satanic Statements. Statement number 5. Satan represents vengeance instead of turning the other cheek. Too many people believe that they can treat you wrongly, and they can abuse you, and you will not retaliate. We live in a society having the outward appearance of civility and peace. However, this is not the case. If someone does you harm, vengeance is yours in no uncertain terms. The problem today is too many fools believe they can abuse you with no ramification whatsoever. Disprove their theory and show them if they infringe upon you in any capacity, you will reciprocate and you will settle the matter. In summary, knowing your strengths and weaknesses is fundamental to success. If you do not identify the areas of weakness, you may very well learn your weaknesses at the worst possible time while your enemy is watching or in the heat of battle. If you are not very truthful with yourself while identifying strengths and weaknesses, you are setting a chain of events into motion that will end with your enemy's foot across your throat. Do not fail to plan by dismissing an important element such as this: the art of cognitive warfare. Do not dismiss knowledge from any source. This knowledge presented in this episode is valuable and, more importantly, it works. It has worked well for me and our coven magnum opus, and we're certainly not changing. If it works, stick to it. Satanas wants you to live a rewarding life without fear. Stand tall and shout with the devil. Thank you to my wonderful Patreons for making this series possible. Without them, it could not happen. If you feel this series is value added, consider taking part by becoming a Patreon or by making a donation.